Creating serious comedy shows is no joke. It takes a unique kind of creative talent to make people laugh and keep them coming back as fans for years. My name is Abid, and this is What's Stewing. One man who took the leap of faith early in the Malaysian television industry and made history is none other than Michael Simon. He is the visionary behind the Lawak franchise, which captured the hearts of the Malay audience and turned everyday comedic talents into television superstars. Never before had audiences seen performers elevated to the status of television royalty until Michael and his team at Homegrown Productions made it happen. Welcome, Michael, to What's Doing, and thank you so much for taking time out for this lovely interview.
Hey, thanks so much for the invite, Abid. I mean, it's nice to see you once again, and doing this kind of stuff.
So tell us about, your broadcast journey, how you started, and how Raja Lawak came to be what it is now.
Wow, it's a very long story.
You have all the time, by the way.
So I started, this is my 30th year as a TV producer. So I started way back 2014 in TV3. I was in the entertainment department. So I produced all the entertainment shows, from the whatever comedy we had, like the talent search shows, Sinaran, Composer, I did Jora Lagu, and then, we went on. And most of the shows were entertainment based. I was in the entertainment department. So fast forward later, I produced all these singing entertainment shows, Malaysian Idol was one of them as well. So I said that, hey, let's put a spin on this and let's look for comedians. And that's how Raja Lawak was started.
So it was a brand new format which was never been done before. And you thought, let's give it a go.
Exactly, because for the longest time, from since the 80s, where we had Jangan Ketawa, comedy seems to have, vanished on Malaysian TV. There was not so much comedy. We did the scenario, they had that troupe, and there was more stage performances, and it also went on to some movies. But to search for comedic talents was not available in Malaysia.
But the talent was available.
The talent, abounded with talent, in Malaysia, but, there was not one platform which actually, went around looking for comedians, putting them on stage, and, trying to get the best out of the best.
So comedy as such is a very tough genre, Writing comedy, performing comedy is one of the most toughest part on television.
Right.
How did you manage to achieve success, especially during a time when drama and reality shows dominated the screens?
Right. You see, when you asked me about how I achieved that success, to me it was just doing what we just set out to do. We really wanted to do something different, and we never wrote comedy. We just wanted to get the funniest fellas on TV and let the Malaysians and the judges be the judge of that. And somehow it worked. It was sort of a reality talent search show. And we were doing quite a number of reality shows at that time. But then we just put a spin onto the singing reality shows, and we started looking for comedy.
Okay. You are one of the few people I know that own their own IP.
All right.
Raja Lawak still is your IP.
Okay, this is like some negotiations. I was reading a lot of books on, Mark Burnett and all these reality show producers, John DeMol. Yeah, so at that time I was like, hey, let's try to see what we can get out of this whole exercise. So I spoke to, that time, Kai Saleh was in charge. So I said, hey, Kai, I want the talent. I want to sign on the talent. I want the format. I want the merchandise. I just threw that in, after reading all these books and stuff like that. So he said, hey, Mike, we can't give you the talent because we have a company called Maestro and they have to be signed under Maestro. I said, then what does that leave me? So we negotiated. I said like this, I will own the format. You own the talent. So that's how we actually, parted ways. I walked out with the format, and he had rights to the talent.
So that helped you with the spin-offs?
It did.
So that helped you with Maharaja Lawak, Ega and all?
Yes. But then again, when it came to Maharaja Lawak, Mega, we sat again in another room, and they said that, hey, we can't let you own the IP 100%.
Why not?
I don't know, because, they had already woken up to what IP was.
By that time, they realized that how much money you have made.
Tell you the truth, it's not much actually. But, they wisened up and they said that, hey, we can't let you walk away with 100% of the IP. It has to be a 50-50. If you're not going to do 50-50, then, we'll have to cancel this show. So, to me, at the end of the day, I needed to feed 30 staff. So ego was not much of a thing for me then. So I said, okay, fine, 50-50. So we did a 50-50 with them. So until today, Maharaja Lawak is own, it's a 50-50 partnership. They come produce it without us, and we come produce it without them.
But are they producing it still? They are producing the show?
Later, about 5 years ago, they actually came up to me and say, hey, Mike, you've been producing and directing the show for the longest time. Why don't we just license the show from you? Because our production guys actually know how to do it. Which made sense. Mm-hmm. So I said, okay. So we walked away with a licensing deal after that.
But that was a great, insight on how to negotiate IPs. Because I think generally what happens is producers in Malaysia, especially in Malaysia, because everybody all the broadcasters are very high on owning the IP.
Right.
It doesn't happen in Singapore. It happens only in Malaysia. And I think 90% of the producers end up giving away all the rights to the broadcasters. I'm glad that somebody like you sat down and talked and walked away with the 50%, whatever that you had.
Right.
And that kudos to you. That should be in the history books because there are very few people who have done that.
Right.
So moving to the audience side, because you're seeing the whole, Maharaja Lawak getting launched and everybody has been going crazy. I was there to witness that hype.
Yeah, and you produced a couple of the promos as well.
I did all the launch promos for that one. And I'm actually, my team and me did the whole launch campaign for that. And we knew what big a hype was Raja Lawak as well as Maharaja Lawak. And but that was a different time altogether.
It was, yeah.
So what significant changes have you seen in television audiences since you started creating those shows?
I mean, the days of that kind of comedy, I think, has come to an end in that sense. So comedy is slightly different now, but it doesn't mean that Raja Lawak still doesn't have a sting. It's how you present it to audience nowadays, because everything is fast-paced. Everything is just a flick of your finger, comedy on demand and stuff like that. So it's how we now package something which was big 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and now make it into a smaller, bite-sized competition. There's nothing to stop us from actually working with TikTok to come up with Raja Lawak TikTok or Raja Lawak YouTube or something like that. We're definitely looking into things like that. We feel that for the past 10 years, this net which we had used to actually capture these comedians has not been used, So now what we want to do is, hey, give us a chance to cast this net, smaller holes, to actually find all these new comedians, who have followed the show but haven't taken part, The younger ones, 10 years, 15 years ago, whether we can cast this net wide enough to get a different breed of comedians. Everyone has seen the old comedians, Everyone has seen Zizan, Johan, Nabil, and they're still big today. Yeah. They still command a huge audience. But, I feel that, hey, these are not the only talents around,
Yes. No, so that is happening because the audience has changed, or the taste has changed, or the technology has evolved?
I guess a bit of everything. I think people are very, very hung up on something fast. They want to consume something fast,
And the dopamine hit.
Exactly. Yeah. So they keep on, getting their kicks. But I think that, when we were producing Raja Lawak, Maharaja Lawak. Let me tell you something. Initially, yeah, we made some money. It was because of the business and to keep the team together. But towards the later stage, once it hit Maharaja Lawak, and we saw how many lives we had changed. Zizan was selling keropok leko in Terengganu.
Nabil was a delivery boy.
Yeah, we followed him in Seremban, Negeri Sembilan, during his dispatch rounds. Johan was a car mechanic sometimes, selling stuff sometimes. There's Sapa, the guys from Sapa were baggage handlers on Air Asia. And to see how their lives had changed, so then I figured that, hey, we're doing something really positive for the people and also for the economy in that sense. And it took on a different monster for us. It took on a different role for us, that, hey, let's make something from zero to hero. And the guys from Sabah, zero, they were fishermen. They hadn't even eaten like chicken before. They were eating fish, but these guys were eating lobsters as well because they catch
Different kind of chicken.
no chicken. So these guys were amazing, and these guys were in Kampung Air, some water village somewhere, and we took them out of that and made them to
The stars.
the stars they are today.
No, that I know because we work very closely with Nabil and how Nabil's life changed.
Exactly.
How big a superstar he became after the win. And I think yeah, you're right. Because a lot of lives were changed because of one show. So tell me one thing. Raja Lawak in today's woke cancel kind of culture,
Right.
how would it fare in 2024, 2025?
Right.
What do you think? Will it stand a chance to be as funny and as unadulterated than what it was 10 years ago?
I guess maybe for TV it's a different thing, but I got my sights set on online transmission, which frees you up with a lot more stuff to do, as opposed to producing it for TV with all their guidelines and their rules and stuff like that. But you see, when we were producing Raja Lawak and Maharaja Lawak, there were a lot of people who came up to me and told me that, hey, this is such a stupid show. But at the end of the day, 5 million viewers per episode is what are you trying to say? To me, I kept that aside. I mean, yeah, some of the jokes were corny and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, it entertained that many people. So to me, we were true to what we set out to do. We wanted to entertain the mass market. And people came back home, they viewed the show. For the longest time, no one viewed the show as a family, It was not a family, there was no family shows to view together. So for Raja Lawak, we had people and families sitting down together and laughing together. And how many shows, might I ask you, reached that level of TV? Yeah.
That is one of the reasons why they were spin-off, why they were like such a craze at that point of time, because it brought the family together.
Exactly. So I mean, to us, we got our kicks from that, We brought people together, we created zero to hero, we created superstars and stuff like that. So that took on a different meaning for us. Whenever we did Raja Lawak, we always asked ourselves, hey, how can we help? And how can we actually make it entertaining to the mass market?
Comedy writing is one of the toughest jobs right now, anywhere in the world. It's not only in Malaysia, but again, even in Hollywood. And if you want great writers, great talents to write your show,
Right.
You need to have those kind of people who know the pulse of the nation, know the pulse of the underlay, of the society and what is happening at the being very current at that point in time. How did you find those kind of writers who did great writing for the show, which made the show so big?
Right. But I'll tell you a secret. We never had writers.
It was all the talents?
All the talents. And, we actually brought in mentors, we brought in, senior comedians, and we brought in directors and producers to sit down with this new talent and to actually coax them into, coming up with content. No one actually was a writer. We never had a bunch of pool of writers to write comedy, because writing comedy is a very, as you said, it's a very difficult thing. And, we want to reach the mass market. To get writers, comedy comedy writers for the mass market, it's a different bunch of people anyway.
Yeah.
So what we did was we caught the talents, the established comedians, and then they came and they gave their input, and then they looked through the stories and the skits of the contestants, and that's how we built something moving forward. There was never writers per se in this show. For the 8 episodes, 8 seasons of Raja Lawak, there were no writers. Maharaja Lawak, I think Astro provided a writer who actually wrote the scripts for the host. That's
For the links.
It was interesting. It was an experiment for us. Let's try to do something out of the box. We stood our ground and said that, hey, you cannot write this kind of comedy. It has to come impromptu. It has to be, very, very fluid, very, unwritten in that sense. And we managed to actually reach that point of comedy in that sense.
So now we are in the age of Instagram and TikTok,
Yeah.
where everybody is a talent
Yeah.
in front of the phone,
Exactly.
and everyone is trying to make you laugh.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of talents which are doing it on day in, day out
Yep.
to amuse their followers.
Yeah.
And what future do you see for a comedy show in the future? Means for appointment viewing comedy show, will that be still relevant, or people getting dopamine hits every 30 seconds by just scrolling on their smartphones?
I guess, you have to play it with the situation as it is now. I think there's a lot of room for proper sitcoms now, a bit more intelligent sitcoms, not the empty.
Banana peel after. Yeah.
There is a lot of scope for that. No one has really, sat down and created like a Friends in Malaysia. Why not? That takes a lot of writing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there is a lot of scope for that. I've been noticing that there are micro dramas. Why can't they be micro comedy skits as well?
I think what creators are trying to do is to do that.
Exactly.
Those 30 seconds to 1 minute clip.
Yeah.
So I think that is what being done on social media. But I think for television, they have to rethink from perspective of people who are getting that hit on the smartphone. Would they like to invest a huge amount of money to make a TV show where half of the jokes might already be on social media?
Exactly. So yeah, it's interesting times actually. But I feel that there is a merge. I think there is a merge between the short forms online and probably comedy shows as well. I think what we can do is to develop talent online and then take them on to TV shows as well.
Yeah, I think that's where you find raw talent, which
Exactly.
which you can
Nurture,
groom
yeah.
and make them into
Yeah.
talents for television. So lately, in the last 5 years, 6 years, there have been great stand-up comedy, which is going on all international OTT platforms.
Right.
And and some of the Malaysian talents have also appeared on a Netflix special,
Yep.
or some of the specials.
Yeah.
Where do you think Malaysian comic talent and comedy TV shows stand in today's time? And what are they missing than what their contemporaries in different other countries who are doing great stand-up and making tons and tons of money?
Yeah. If you look at the landscape here, there are a lot of underground comedy shows.
Yep.
Yeah, so I've been following some of them. Some of them are in Tamil, colloquial languages. Some of them are in Mandarin or Cantonese, and they're they attract quite a decent crowd as well. The Malays also are also doing stand-up comedies, but in very small bits and pieces and very underground in that sense. I think there has to be a very healthy underground before they can all move up above the ground. While saying that, I think there are people like Douglas, there are people like Jason Leong, and they are doing really good stuff, especially in the international circuits. They've been in Australia and doing their stand-up routines, and they get quite a decent response, And it's really interesting, but you have to understand there are two different kinds of comedy. You have that urban comedy and you have that underground, rough, edgy comedy.
The Heartland comedy.
Heartland comedy.
So, but again, will there be a ton of Hal Skandars and Douglas Lim, Jason Young? Are there are these upcoming talents means are they being discovered, and are producers looking for that kind of content, or do we have that kind of content creators, comedians, which we can use in the future?
I guess that we just have to keep our eyes open, and we just have to keep on looking into the facets, the underground facets, the underground stages and stuff like that, and then start coaching some of these guys, and maybe have another competition like Raja Lawak was a prime example of something like that way back then, 10 years ago. We created this platform so people who are doing this kind of comedy with their friends and in smaller spaces had an opportunity to actually rise above and be in a national stage. So I think what we need to do is keep on looking, because I think a star is born every other day. But how you polish the star and how you actually prepare the star for a bigger market, that's the key, I feel.
There have been a very few producers I know who have pivoted in their career.
Right.
You are one of them.
Right.
So from television production, you got into, vegetable production, as in farming.
Yeah.
How did that happen? What made you take that route, and what's that journey all about?
That was interesting. I mean, about 2018, before the pandemic, I have 4 children, and we always strive to give them healthy food, and we want them to eat healthy food. And after reading a lot about what's happening, what kind of pesticides and what kind of chemicals people spray onto vegetables, I was talking to my wife. I said, hey, why don't we do something? I mean, we've got some land. Let's just start a farm. So we started a farm, and we started farming organically. I was a TV producer. I didn't see a difference between producing TV shows and producing vegetables, but apparently there is a difference. But I learned everything online. I was a avid YouTube subscriber, and I learned pretty much everything on YouTube. And when people started asking for certification and stuff like that, I got myself certified from an aquaponics guru in Australia. So I do have some certification, but most of it is just experience.
You're legit.
So I mean, most of it is just experience and wanting to actually create a healthier but a cheaper option for the masses. We've been producing TV shows for masses. So now, if you want to sell organic vegetables to the masses, to people, people walk into Jaya Grocers, they don't even look at the organic aisle, they just go for the ones in the general aisle. Why? Because the prices are so high. So we actually decided to farm to bring down the prices of organic vegetables, to give the public, the masses, a viable, healthier option. And we joined this competition, the Khazanah New Entrepreneur Outreach. And this is a sea of tech companies, and you must see all these tech fellas, talking tech and stuff like that. And I was the only joker, the farmer, in that whole group of tech entrepreneurs. And guess who won? We won. So that was interesting, to show that, hey, it is viable and there is a need for something like this to happen. So this is what we've been pushing. And, planting, growing vegetables and selling vegetables is not a viable option. You talk about sustainability and stuff like that. I think number one, the farmer has to be sustainable before, everything else can be sustainable. So we found that there is a lot of value to add to the subscribers. To our buyers when we go downstream. So we develop pestos, we have our own sourdough bakery on the farm. So, it evolved into a lot of this downstream activities.
Yeah, you took farm to table quite seriously. No, but that's great news. That's something which I don't know any producers done that before. But kudos for that one. This is nicely done. Do you think switching industries is the way forward for the current television market? Because you know how the television market is at this point in time.
Yeah.
The reason I picked up that earlier question, was that you have done it successfully. You have put in the effort of learning things, growing things, making it sustainable,
right,
making it successful.
Yep.
But at this point, at post-pandemic, what we have experienced within our Malaysian market, that a lot of good talent have left the industry and gone and done something else, because again, it was not financially viable for them to sustain. So do you think there has to be a point where people have to pivot from our industry to any other industry? Yours is a farming, maybe some other industry might need that kind of talent, and they move towards that. It's a loss for us.
Yeah.
A great art director or a great assistant producer
Understand it.
starts doing something else.
Yeah.
At one point in time, he was doing such amazing stuff for TV shows and films, and now he's got his own business, or he's gone into a completely different line of work. Do you think pivoting in a career after means doing such great work, is that an option going forward for people in the industry?
You see, the industry is such that, it captures you and keeps you inside, and you keep churning out work. And one fine day when the bigger establishments don't need you, they just, there's a cold shoulder and you don't get anything. So the problem is pivoting is good, but pivoting is actually for people who can afford to pivot. You understand? There are a lot of people out there, a lot of creatives out there who can't even afford to pivot. And they're getting by day, and that's the biggest problem in our industry. It sucks you in. It sucks you in so deep that all you know is how to produce or how to handle a camera and stuff like that. But every other day there are new producers coming up, there are new cameramen coming up, there are a lot of new technical guys coming up. So that's the problem. It's a very complex place to be in. It sucks you in so deep that some people can't afford and can't think of anything else to do.
You have worked with various broadcasters over the past 3 decades, right? How have their approach to content and their willingness to create groundbreaking television formats like the ones you have created have changed through the years?
You see, I'll tell you another secret about Raja Lawak. So I was in 8 TV, and
That's Media Prima.
Media Prima. So after 2 years stint in 8 TV, I had a talk with Ahmad Izam Omar, who's my boss at that moment. I said, hey, I have to leave. I have to do something on my own. So he let me leave, and he let me produce the first season of 1 in a Million from the outside, So we had work to do. I took my team, which I developed in 8 TV, and we started Homegrown Productions, and we had this thing to do. But, I knew that there was a lot more stuff for us to do. So I wrote Ralph Marshall a letter. You know Mr. Ralph Marshall?
Yes, I do. Yes.
So he was pivotal, I wrote him a letter. I said, hey, give us a chance to take over Ep6. They had this channel called Ep6, which showed a lot of music videos and chats, aimless, such a waste of bandwidth. So I wrote him a letter. I said, actually, I wrote Mr. Tan Sri Ananda Krishnan a letter, an email. And I think Mr. Ralph Marshall took on from there. And he called me. He said, what do you want? We're at 15. Why you want to take over a channel? I said, because it's such a waste of bandwidth. Let's create the first Malaysian youth channel, and I have the team. And just give us 6 months, we'll show you what it's all about. He said, hey, no need to take any of our channels. What can you do on the outside for us? So you give me one idea right now. So I told him to search for the next Malaysian comedian. And he just set up, he said, hey, that's a great idea. He was the one who commissioned Raja Lawak first,
Really?
Yeah. Before it trickled down to Kaya Saleh and the team.
So you went direct to the source.
I mean, he was pivotal in our success, Mr. Ralph Marshall. And, without him believing in that format, and he didn't say, okay, why do you change this, change that? He didn't say anything like that. He saw the concept, he saw the format. He called Mr. Zaini Aminullah. He said, hey, this guy's got a good format. Let's take him on. And then it took a year for it to get produced. But, nonetheless, that without help from these people, who know TV actually, we'd probably be pivoting a long time ago. It's people like this.
The enablers.
Exactly.
They think through an idea and they think that this is going to work.
Exactly.
And that's where they pick those people and then let you do your own stuff.
Exactly.
And make it happen.
Yeah. But today, the executives, you give them a really good idea. I mean, you got 30 years behind you, and you would know what a good idea is. You've got a pulse on the mass market and stuff like that. You present this pitch to them, and then say, hey, it's a good pitch, but why don't you make it into a comedy? It's a serious talent search show, which they want to change it into a comedy. Or why don't you get this comedian to be on board? You understand? So they start calling shots, which suddenly, you see your format
being completely sabotaged and murdered in front of you.
Exactly.
And there's one person who is an intern who will be sitting in that meeting. You say, this I think won't work. And then suddenly the whole bunch of people will say, yes, he's right. That won't work. And suddenly that's it.
So you've been there as well?
We all have been there. I mean, this is not a hidden secret. Every producer in this country has been in that room where a junior executive or an intern will stand up and give his 2 cents of idea.
Yeah.
And that's where you see your idea being collapsed.
Yeah.
Killed.
So there's very little, respect or they honor for the work you've done, in TV, you're only as good as your last show.
Yep.
If your last show was terrible, then, you can try pivoting. Lah. But if your last show was good, someone should actually take your track record seriously, and say, okay, you're the expert of this. I'll give you a chance.
No, but that comes from collaboration. That comes from partnerships.
Yeah.
There cannot be a client-vendor relationship. And that is where, the problem happens.
Exactly.
They say, okay, we are paying you, you better do that.
Yeah.
Maybe it's your idea.
Yeah.
Maybe you have better than ours.
Yeah.
But again,
Money's coming from us, yeah.
So listen to us, whether he's 20 years old or 40 years old or whatever age he is.
Yeah.
That is where I think there's a mismatch in our industry. But again, that's for another day.
Right.
That can take another show altogether.
Right.
But we come to the end of the show, and thank you so much, Michael, for taking time out. But I have an idea for you.
All right.
Why don't you do a stand-up show on your farm? That would be a great show,
Actually, you'll be surprised. We're actually formulating a format which actually brings comedians to the farm.
See, there is something. There is something going on. Thank you, Michael. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate all the insight which you give us. And best of luck with Homegrown Production and Homegrown Farms.
Right.
And hope to see you soon. And best of luck for all your future ventures.
Sure. Thank you so much, Abid.
That was Michael Simon, a Malaysian reality TV producer like no other. With comedy available at the swipe of a finger, how will producers like Michael create compelling shows that draw audiences back to the television set? Only time will tell. Thanks for watching, and until the next episode, keep stewing.